see, we kept this program secret. We kept the plot of this secret. It's probably leaked by the time this gets here, but we kept this very secret. I think that might have had an unfortunate effect. I think everyone's expecting Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi and the ghost of William Hartnell riding on the back of the Garm on board this spaceship. Whereas actually, I kept this secret for a very simple reason. Partly because I think it's nice to keep some episodes completely secret, but also because this is actually the simplest one of the lot. If you describe this episode, so they arrive on a station and they arrive on a spaceship and they meet evil versions of themselves. That's it. That's it. There's nothing more. That's it. Do they win? Yes, they do. Of course they do. I mean, with Star Beast, you could sort of say, oh, the Meep turns out to be evil, and actually that's about Donna. The other episodes are more complicated. This is so simple. That's why I kept it secret, but I wonder if that's had an unfortunate effect and made it disappointingly simple on its broadcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank. So, Blue Yonder. That was alright, really, for the most part. In terms of episodes, it probably isn't my least favorite episode of Doctor Who. It's definitely not my favorite. It's just not really what I look for in an episode of Doctor Who. It is, in a lot of ways, reminiscent of, say, the episode Midnight. Another episode from the Russell Davies era that really relied more on the strength of its performers than it did, say, a really great or complex story. This is your base Under Siege story. So after Donna spills coffee on the TARDIS in the Star Beast, the TARDIS goes a bit haywire, just starts going off somewhere. Really sort of defeats the purpose of the TARDIS being updated if all it takes is coffee. I mean, really. Then we get a couple things here, like, say, the Doctor and Donna meet Sir Isaac Newton, and he's doesn't look anything like you would think he'd ever would look like. And yeah, he's been race swapped, but also he's been designed to look conventionally attractive. This way, the Doctor and Donna can sort of like, oh yeah, he was kind of hot. And this led to the whole, this incarnation of the Doctor is apparently gay. And fan base is, well, depending on who you ask, the fan base is a bit triggered by this. To be honest, this isn't the first time it's happened in Doctor Who, not just under Russell. The Doctor's always been a bit of a flirt with pretty much anybody, really, especially new Who Doctors. Classic Doctors are pretty much asexual, for the most part. And I think that's really how I like the Doctor. I don't mind the occasional flirting. Of course, we remember the 11th Doctor kissed Rory. The 9th Doctor, well, in some of the audios, he implies he has tried to flirt with guys. Ultimately, I don't care about this because ultimately, I think it's a throwaway line, but the problem is Russell has a problem with sort of reining himself in on what he wants. And I think what he really wants is to take what he thinks the Doctor is, which is sort of everything. The Doctor must be everyone to everything. And try to compress that in one person. And I think that hurts the Doctor as a character more. So, I think, really the Doctor, the more you add to the Doctor, the more you take away from in essence. Because ultimately, I don't care what color the Doctor is, what his sexuality is, or any of that. What I really care is the Doctor as a character. I think that character is accessible to everyone. Everyone can sort of relate to the Doctor from being an outsider. It's sort of like when you don't quite get the point of the Gargoyles or the X-Men, how the fact that they may or may not have been a direct metaphor for this specific group, but they fit that mold, they fit the spirit of that story more than anything. So you don't necessarily need a gay mutant to understand, like, oh, hey, as quote-unquote a gay person, I can sort of understand how it feels, especially depending on the area you grew up in. And I think this would have been better suited for the companion than the Doctor. The Doctor really should be exemplified as sort of the best of the universe, thereby interacting with all sorts of different people. And I think that would help his character become more relatable and more of an ideal. In other words, the Doctor doesn't have to be exactly like you to say, hey, you're deserving of love, you're deserving of care, you're deserving of respect. That's been the Doctor at his core. Alright? So, I don't know. I felt it was an unnecessary line, If it was played for laughs, I think they just sort of landed. They just sort of hit it wrong. We're in a very sensitive area, so I'm not really playing either side on this one because I get it. There's the anti-woke group who are like, yeah, this is just Doctor Who becoming more woke, and then there's the Rainbow Coalition, who needs to see themselves in everything. Otherwise, they're just not represented. Or even worse, the people who feel they're qualified to speak for those people, and they're like, well, you just don't like it because it's this. We're judging people based off of, everything but their character at this point. But whatever, we're getting off topic here. So they end up on a spaceship, the TARDIS goes off somewhere, and this is sort of where the hilarity ensues. And hilarity is a very loose term, because honestly, this is a very tense story. Because it really is just the Doctor and Donna. Even when the antagonists show up, they take the form of the Doctor and Donna. So, there we go. Luckily, David Tennant and Catherine Tate are not only great actors, they have a great rapport, so they know how to sort of bring out the best in each other's performances. They know how to play off each other well. It's really great for that. If you're not a fan of these sort of very isolated stories, this isn't going to be for you. I can take or leave them. Heaven Sent, I liked. The audio scherzo was fun. I haven't listened to it in a while. That one is just 8 and Charlie. I think there's a place for it. I wasn't too crazy about Midnight. Again, that episode is sort of like the prelude to this. I think the biggest problem is that, this episode was redacted. The whole point of, Wild Blue Yonder was kept under the strictest of secrets more than any of the episode in these specials. And as I just played, Russell was showing hey, well, I just didn't want people to figure it out because, there's not much to the story. That's Russell's fault, by the way. This is an experimental idea that maybe didn't need to be one of the anniversary specials, because this is the 60th anniversary. We really shouldn't have throwaway episodes. Everything here should be building upon a much bigger story. And they do, at the same time they don't, but I don't know. It felt like really this episode should have been maybe the first episode of the actual season, especially because we brought up the Flux. So they've arrived. So where they've arrived is apparently the end of the universe, and it's not like the Doctor hasn't arrived there before. Remember Utopia? That's pretty much it. The Time Lords apparently stationed out at the end of the universe too, or the end of time. It's weird. The Doctor's been here enough times. Ended up in a pocket universe where there's nothing but the planet House, and he took care of House. There's nothing in that dimension now. Really, the only thing I particularly cared about was apparently brought up the Flux. So the Flux apparently did wipe out all life in about half the universe. So in other words, the Doctor universe has been Thanos snapped. And I don't know how to feel about that, because I don't see any repercussions for that. Love or hate Endgame, they do mention, at least on Earth, and even in space, that there are a lot of planets sort of suffer the fact that half their populations have, gone, so they're dealing with the fallout of that. And I can imagine if something wipes out half life in all the universe, apparently even Jupiter was gone. Jupiter's no longer in our solar system, and curses the Doctor universe, and we'll never bring that up again. The Doctor bringing this up and blaming himself for it is interesting, but that would require me to really care about the Flux, and points to us for trying to act like that story is going to have, repercussions. But it hasn't so far. What does the Shadow Proclamation have to do with the fact that, half of everything is kind of gone, or at least, or destroyed? As a matter of fact, the Shadow Proclamation would have seen that happen. The Doctor blames himself for it, but again, is that really the Doctor's fault? Azure and Swarm, Division, these things sort of just involve the Doctor, but aren't because of the Doctor. It felt like Chibnall sort of dropped the ball on that, but I'm not going to blame Chibnall because I don't care to remember most of the Flux story. I'll get to it when I get to it. So I don't quite get that. High point is still when Wilfred showed up. Alright? Again, I think the best scenes here were in the beginning, when you didn't quite know that there was an antagonist here. We just sort of see Donna and the Doctor in two different rooms talking to the Doctor and Donna. So Donna's in one room talking to the Doctor's in another room talking to Donna. It turns out they're not talking to them, talking to someone who's taken their form. And then we sort of see them mutate into monsters. Like, they're trying to figure out exactly how this form works. And I think it may have been a mistake to make them monsters. Sort of have it be the fact that, maybe these were beings that existed in a universe that used to be occupied with life, and they usually existed in a sort of symbiotic relationship with that life. But now that life is gone, courtesy of the flux, they're just sort of going off on a, losing it. For me personally, it was hard to care about this episode. Really. I tend to avoid most spoilers. Well, I'm supposed to cavalier about spoilers. If I hear it, I'm like, oh, okay. It doesn't usually ruin my enjoyment of an episode. Since there were no spoilers for this episode, outside of what I've just done by ruining this episode, I don't quite know how to feel about it, per se. As Russell mentioned, by, hiding all this, he's sort of putting people's ideas that, Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi are going to be in this, which would have been amazing, really. Considering it's an anniversary special, one would think that would happen. Let's see here. The last time we didn't do a multi-Doctor story for an anniversary special was what? Remembrance of the Daleks? I think Remembrance of the Daleks? Seventh Doctor era story, Daleks, Hand of Omega. I felt that was possibly the best anniversary special we've had that didn't involve more than one Doctor, but it also mentioned another Doctor, implying, the first Doctor and his reason for coming to Coal Hill School. It wasn't just, we're hiding out. He was hiding something. That is sort of the problem with this 60th anniversary special. It doesn't feel like a 60th anniversary special. It feels more like Russell's just sort of celebrating him coming back to Doctor Who. And the fan base has already done that enough times. So I don't think I'll ever really appreciate Wild Blue Yonder for anything other than its stellar acting. It felt a bit too over the top. And which is weird because I know what's coming next. Neil Patrick Harris playing a bad guy. I think we're going to go way over the top with that. But I just don't... I can't bring myself to care about anything other than the performances these two actors gave, which is the highlight of the whole episode. This is that experiment. It feels like Russell just really loved the episode Midnight. Like, I'd like to do Midnight again, really. Just like, except this time we'll put Donna in it. We'll put Donna in it, and, we'll just have them be in it, and we'll just have them act. Because, Catherine and David do just phenomenal work together, and we'll just do that. And again, that's great. Episode looks... Maybe I'm not used to seeing Doctor Who look this good, or not. I don't know. But ultimately, I'm not... Outside of the 10th Doctor... The Neo 10th Doctor. I think someone called him that. I think that sort of works out. The Neo 10th Doctor talking about his adventures... his adventure with the whole flux and blaming himself for it, and the fact that he doesn't quite know where he belongs, I think is interesting, but I felt like maybe that should have been better suited for Shooty's Doctor, as we sort of explain him. Apparently he's going to be a very emotionally vulnerable and incarnation. I'm like, okay. And as people pointed out, it feels like Russell's just resetting back to 2006. So in other words, we're just going to get the 9th Doctor again. Except this one's going to be black. I don't know. And having the 10th Doctor talk about how this Doctor is sort of a bit more open about being attracted to men is sort of also supposed to set up Shooty. So couldn't we just let Shooty be Shooty's Doctor? Could we just let that happen? I don't know. I think I've painted a bad picture of this episode, and I really don't want to do that. This episode is a solid story, great performance, special effects, to each their own. Some great twists at the end, some great sort of weird, cheesy body horror, but really it is just a bunch of great performances from two actors. It's kind of it. And Wilfred's here! Wilfred, best boy Wilfred. You know what, let's just stop it right there. This is the image. This is what people wanted. And yes, Bernard Cribbins passed away before he could do any other scenes, so I'm not going to blame anyone for that. It's just the way it rolls sometimes. I'm just glad we were able to get him on for any bit of time. So, there we go. And, yeah, this is... I will never come back to this episode, honestly. Um, to review it again, maybe for a Doctor Who retrospective, I doubt it. This incarnation only has one more episode left, technically. He's what, 3 hours? So he's lasted more than a War Doctor in terms of television. But if we add the audios in, then he, yeah, he'll be the shortest run Doctor ever. And I don't see much point of revisiting his era either. So anyway, let's bring this to a close here because we're rambling because there is nothing of really real interest to talk about this episode. So yeah, let's bring this to a close here. If you're new to the Bug Thank you, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. What would you like about Wild Blue Yonder? Anything about it that stood out to you personally? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. I'll catch you all later. This is Bug Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.